Hopefully you can hear me. I've got my stuff on right now. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly before I get into it. Let's see. Okay. Okay. So forgive me, I'm trying to get this off of the screen. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about being a fiber artist and teacher at the Friedman Place. I'm going to just go down the slides like this, sorry. Okay, so I'm just going to introduce myself really quickly. I live in Chicago, Illinois. I work at the Friedman Place, which is a nonprofit, but it's also a supportive living community for adults who are blind and visually impaired. So a little bit about me. I graduated from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago in 2020. This is before I ever discovered weaving and knew that it was the best thing in the whole world. So I majored basically in art therapy and disability, two things that are pretty close to my heart. I found fiber art sort of on a whim at first. I thought it was a nice thing to pick up, and then I'm sure everybody is familiar with the weaving the fiber bug, and it kind of took over. And I joined my local weaving guild chapter, and the rest is history. I've got a picture of some of my recently spun yarn on the bottom left, and I've got a tie that I'm weaving out of silk, currently in progress. I'm going to do my best to briefly narrate some of the image descriptions that I have that you'll see in each of these slides, just because kind of the whole point of my talk is just approaching fiber art from a more accessible point of view. So yeah, just bear with me as I do that. So what Friedman is all about. So like I said, they're a nonprofit supportive living community for adults who are blind or visually impaired. They support, I want to say, about 85 residents right now. It's not all of them are weavers. I would say that our weaving program currently supports about 25, 26 weavers. And we've got a wait list because I'm happy to say that it's a very popular program, which is awesome. So we teach anybody from people who've never woven before or people who want to weave but don't know what it is, to people who've been weaving for upwards of 10 to 15 years, just because this program has been around for quite a while. Before Friedman Place was Friedman Place, there was also a weaving program at its predecessor, which I will get into. And then on occasion, I also have the opportunity to provide like an offshoot class, maybe once every other month or so. Back in August, we did spinning, which I'll get more into also. It was a smash hit, which is great. So, you know, all kinds of fiber art that we can include in the program. I take suggestions from residents whenever they learn about something that they want to try. If I can learn it, or if one of the other people in the program can learn it, we'll try our best to teach it. So I'll read the image description for this in the bottom left corner. Center frame, a table loom stands fully dressed with a blue and purple warp draped with two multicolored pot holders and two striped yellow dish towels. So the technical name of the annex that I teach in that is under the big umbrella that is Friedman Place is called the David Herman Learning Center. And I think that whenever it says learning center, I like to go into detail too that it is an art therapy learning center. And so the art therapy program is not one that facilitates, you know, actively unpacking trauma to address mental health issues. The residents are supported in a meditative form of art therapy that comes a little bit more as an art process. The program gives a sense of accomplishment to residents by giving them just an opportunity to have autonomy over what objects they make. I personally sit down with each and every one of our residents when something comes off the loom and they're ready to start a new project. They have as much or as little input as they want. I'll show some pictures in a second. But also, I mean, just for people that are blind later in life, it also provides a good outlet for someone to, you know, have some catharsis and maybe help them work through some of the emotional process of acclimating to being blind. We have all kinds of adaptive techniques that we do to teach weaving to people who, you know, may have low vision, may not have any vision at all. You know, everybody's a spectrum. Here is a plaque that is up at the David Herman Learning Center. I'm not going to read the whole thing just for sake of time. But basically, the reason I bring this up is because the David Herman Learning Center is named after a very, very important person. I'm going to scroll down so you can see this. So this is an image of Harry Kagan, a blind adult who founded Friedman Place's predecessor. So before Friedman Place was Friedman Place, it was still in Chicago, Illinois, but it was called the Kagan Home. And this man is standing next to David Herman, who the Learning Center is named after. And if I were to summarize, there's a lot of great information about him, and if you ever have time, you can look it up. But he essentially is one of the first residents who was both deaf and blind. This picture collage here goes into a lot of detail about his life. But to summarize, a lot of these pictures are about his life as a creative, as somebody who used protactile, as well as Braille, and as somebody who was primarily a weaver. So I think that's really cool and important because, not that it's wrong in any way, but people have a lot of misconceptions about certain disabilities and what people are able to do and what people aren't able to do. So when I talk to people about being a weaving teacher, I think the fact that I teach blind adults doesn't even, occur to people that that's something that can intersect. And honestly, I think that some of the techniques that I've learned have also contributed to my personal success as an artist and have challenged me in ways that are very productive. So something else that we do at Friedman Place is called the National Endowment for the Arts. It is basically it's an independent federal agency. It is very centered around arts education in communities. It's a nationwide thing. We've done it a total, I think, of 3 times, and essentially each time we, collaborate on a big project, working a lot with grants, and all of the residents that have been in the weaving program in the last, I want to say 10 years, have gotten the ability to contribute to this. It's optional, they don't have to. But the cool thing is they get to submit artworks that address, maybe their life story or the intimate concepts that are related to disability and being an artist. The topics kind of vary depending on what the center of the project is, but they are all beautiful. Here is an image on the left of a resident from Friedman Place touching and feeling past NEA projects. These marvelous long woven bolts of cloth that are all people collaborating and all different meanings. They're rolled up onto that table. And then in the top right, there's a picture of more hand woven fabric draped on the wall next to the Friedman logo. We have a lot of it, and it's hard to include all of it just because it's years and years worth of work, but I find it really awesome and inspiring for people to be able to participate in such a huge project like this. And, also it provides a really excellent outlet for the residents to get to connect with the outside art world. I'm pretty sure on occasion there have been opportunities for Friedman Place to host kind of like a gallery showing where these works have been displayed, and they still are hanging up in certain parts of our studio. So, obviously with art therapy, with disability, with fiber arts, they're all such expansive topics that I'm not going to be able to get as much as I'd like to into each of them, but I'll do my best. But when I talk about art therapy, I think that there are some misconceptions about art therapy, similar to how there are misconceptions about disability. If you haven't had one-on-one personal interaction with it, there's no reason for you to know what exactly I'm talking about, which is fine, because that's why I'm here. So essentially, the way that art therapy works is it uses creative expression to foster healing, mental well-being. It provides an opportunity for people to work through issues that they may not be able to talk about with a traditional psycho or talk therapist. There are all kinds of therapy that exist. And I think when I say therapy, the thing that first comes to mind for most people is just sitting in a room with talking and a doctor. But people have been using art as art therapy for, I hazard to guess, thousands of years, but it didn't necessarily manifest as a formal program, or, the term art therapy didn't get really coined as a formal thing until the 1940s. So like I said, I want to repeat that our program is a therapeutic arts program. There are not necessarily always things that we do that are intentionally trying to unpack certain things with each individual, but we do use art therapy techniques every single day. I think that something that is cool about fiber art therapy is that it's underutilized and it's not talked as much about as maybe say art therapy that involves painting, stuff like that. People think art therapy and they think just generalize the word art. But yeah, it's been really successful, and I have very positive things to say about it. I was doing some research before I even came here to talk, just because I was like, how do I talk about this thing that I am kind of entrenched in? And there's not as much research and knowledge and reports done on this as you would think. People are very passionate about disability and art therapy and fiber art all separately. And I think that our program is very unique, and we're fortunate to be able to merge all of those things. Using the art therapist or the art process to create an environment that is healthy and safe for people, as well as provide some structure. And, for some residents, it doesn't even necessarily have to do with the fact that they want to make art. It's just about the fact that they have something regular to go to that's recreational, that has a positive impact on their mental health. There's a lot of self-regulation, people just sitting and not wanting to talk about anything in particular. And I find that kind of art therapy can be just as powerful as a large breakthrough that somebody has, investing sessions with a therapist talking about their childhood. Both of those things can work towards the same goal, which is super cool and I think is very awesome. So misconceptions about art therapy. A lot of people think that you can only do art therapy if you're an artist. This is very, very false. I get very passionate about the idea that everyone can do art therapy because that's kind of the point, is to let go of your self-criticism and your judgment that is reserved for critiquing the Mona Lisa and do something in order to express yourself viscerally. Or that because it's fun, that it's just for fun. It's the same as an art class. I don't do art class. I don't do that. That's not true. It is for everybody. It doesn't only take place in a psychologist's office. It's not just painting or drawing. It's anything that can be, defined as an art process. And that it is the same as regular therapy, which I talked about. I mean, regular therapy to say that, a therapist in an office. So I have to be pretty, I have to keep details about all of my residents pretty anonymous just because they are a protected class of people. But I do see examples of resident progress that I would like to attribute to our program every single week. I see improved self-confidence. There are some people that might have issues with aggression or strife in their interpersonal relationships, and I've seen reduced instances of that with the people that are weavers that I've known for the last year or so. A lot of goal setting, which is, also contributes to what kinds of projects that they like to do. I see it reflected in like using weaving on their resume, or, talking about being a weaver in job interviews that they didn't feel confident enough to try out for before they had something that was structured and rigid and there for them. And then, of course, like I said, a creation of routine is always helpful no matter who you are. I think that it's good to have something to look forward to regularly. So yeah, I mean, I've had personal relationships with all of my residents for a while, and I, can confidently say that I can count so many different ways that people have said that weaving has helped. And that's not a positive reflection just on me or the program, but just also how awesome and healing fiber art can be. So yeah. So these are two images taken from the studio. I'm going to pick it up just a little bit, but a picture of multiple looms pushed against a wall is shown on the left. Each of these projects belong to individual weavers. We keep one person per loom so that they don't have to share or worry about, autonomy and all that kind of stuff kind of creates problems. So I'd prefer people to have almost a possessiveness, like a connection and an investment to their loom. On the right is a picture of a couple of people who had a blast in the spinning class that I affectionately titled Spin There, Done That. It was a huge success. It was very fun. And the cool thing about that too is that, it was about the process of spinning as a historical reference, like where it came from, as well as what kinds of things are used to spin, what tools. And then at the end, all of the residents who participated in this program got the ability to set the yarn, learn how to set the yarn, and weave those plied singles, whatever they did, into their projects, which was really cool. And I think my favorite part of the whole thing. Something else that we do is called walking the warp. I'm not going to read this whole thing just because I want to make sure I'm safe on time. But at the end of each project, residents are given the option to walk their warp. So we take the entire finished yardage off of the loom. We have them walk it all the way down the hallway. People come and take pictures. Whoever wants to participate can. And then usually a person I will lead the resident all the way down the line of this entire piece of fabric, and they move with their hands down the fabric. And I describe all the colors to them, all the different changes and textures, all that kind of stuff. It's excellent because it's a visual representation. Like you'll see on the right, this is a resident who has just recently walked the warp and has the entire yardage draped around themselves, which is both, a nice tactile way of representing the enormous amount of work that's been put into this fabric, but it also kind of shows people who don't really know much about weaving what kinds of things can be produced. We have a seamstress on staff who takes the finished bolts of fabric that are hand woven by our residents and makes projects for them to keep and to sell. They make commission after every single completed project if they choose to sell any of it. Here are some pictures of some of the projects as they're finished right before they come off the loom. So left to right, there's a rainbow set of dish towels. In the middle, there is some totes. On the far right, I think they're either placemats or also dish towels. And with each of these projects, there have been varying levels of participation from the residents, depending on how much or how little they want. Some people just say, sit down and let me weave. And I'm like, okay, I'll just make you a project and I'll get it to you as fast as you want. And then some people are very meticulous about what kinds of colors and twill and weave structures are used. So I'm happy to do whatever people want. I'm just excited to work with people. Here are some examples of some finished projects. So after they've been sewn and washed and tagged, on the left is a zipper bag, in the middle is a tote, and on the far right are cane holders, which is awesome because we also always get the opportunity to use the finished projects that the weavers have made all around the main Freedman Place building. So it's great. I mean, I love that people get so excited about it. So thanks for sticking with me through that. I think my final thought is just that I want to share as much as I can about how lucky I am to be a part of this niche program and how cool it is that I got to see all these different things merged together. Obviously, I could talk about this forever. So, thanks for sharing 15 minutes of this with me. If you ever have any questions, you can go onto the Freedman Place website or, connect with me afterwards. But thank you guys so much and happy spending a weaving week.
Oberon, thank you so much. A great talk, and we're just so fortunate to have you participate. Thank you so much.